What's up, everybody? Another NFL week, another professional picks video talking about each game, NFL Week 14. Sliwa, let's jump right into it. As always, don't forget to like the video if you're enjoying and subscribe to the channel to get this content week in and week out.
All right, let's get right into it. As you said, Woj, kicking off with our Thursday night matchup, NFC North divisional game. We got the 9-3 Packers going to Detroit to play the 11-1 Lions now. Lions won this matchup 24-14 in Lambeau just about a month ago. But Jordan Love has put up back-to-back games now, um, turning the ball over less, or just turnover less games in general. And the Packers have rolled in both. So, I mean, if he could bring in a performance like that, I would expect a closer one in this matchup. But where are your thoughts at with the Lions as the number one overall team in PFF? Do you expect this to be like the one we saw in Lambeau, or do you think the Packers could get some momentum and just play cleaner football going forward?
Yeah, I'm expecting a game similar to what you saw in Lambeau. I haven't really been convinced thus far this year that the Packers are as good as their record shows. If you look at the wins they've had lately, they beat the Dolphins by a lot. The Dolphins haven't been playing very well and did not play very well against the Packers. The Niners, who they beat, were without Brock Purdy and a lot of other players. The Bears, they snuck away with the win at that game. They barely beat the Jaguars. And they beat the Texans, who have been slumping lately. Like I haven't seen them win against really good teams yet this year. And so obviously, as we know, the Lions are a really good team, if not the best team. I'm not convinced that the Packers here have enough to put it together to beat a complete team like the Lions. And I'm going to be on the Lions to win this game and to cover. Both played on Thanksgiving, so both get the same amount of rest period. I'm anticipating the Lions here to do what they do, control the ball in the run game, and dominate with their dynamic duo at running back. Use Jared Goff sparingly on play action and play solid defense. And I think that's a recipe to beat the Packers by more than 4.5. What about you?
Yeah. No, I mean you're probably right in this one. The lines have been rolling and covering spreads pretty easily. I'm just kind of thinking about last week, but at the same time, they did play on Thanksgiving, so they got a little bit of extra rest, but so did the Packers going into this game, so that pretty much negates itself. I'm selling myself a little bit on the Packers. I think Jordan Love not turning the ball over in the last two. If you could play a clean game in this one, I kind of like the 4.5. But also because I don't know if you saw, but Jahmyr Gibbs posted a picture and there was like plays in the background, some of their calls. So he could be in the doghouse. There's a slight Dan Campbell clip, but at the same time, I mean, you want to win football games, so
Of course.
you're still going to put him out on the field. You're probably right here going with the Lions, but I do like the Packers plus
I
four.
mean, just to support my argument a little bit more, you mentioned the Lions are the number one team overall in PFF. I think the Packers are like 17 overall in PFF. Like I think both my eyeball test and the PFF metrics support my claim of this is not a 9-3, one of the best records and best teams in football team. So we'll see it. They haven't proven it to me yet against a real legitimate team this year, at least in my eyes. Um, let's see what they can do this week.
Yeah, like I said, probably right, but I'll throw in one more point. The Lions are the most injured team in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Most players on the injury report, but we'll see how this one goes. Woj on Detroit, me on the Packers. Next up, another divisional matchup. This time going to the AFC East. You got the 3-9 Jets spiraling as of late. They're heading to Miami to play the 5-7 Dolphins. Rodgers did play in the last game in that 5-point loss to Seattle. And then the Dolphins lost to the Packers, but still do have some slim playoff hopes. Kind of two teams, not too much going their way as of late. Bottom half defenses in the league, and then the offenses have each had their struggles as well. What are your thoughts in this one? With the Jets maybe looking to move on from Rodgers even?
Yeah, honestly, I was talking about that today. I'd be surprised if they didn't want to move on from Rodgers. Like I think we've mentioned it before, but basically with this exact team, if not less Devontae Adams, then Zach Wilson was able to win the same amount, if not more games as Aaron Rodgers. So he's has not been able to get it done. This offense, outside of a little bit Devontae Adams connection, has not been doing anything. I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers had 185 passing yards today and a pick. 66 of those yards were to Devontae Adams. So you're not even getting a ton of production in connection with Garrett Wilson, who only had 44 yards. Brees Hall, who's an all-pro running back, only 60 yards today on 12 carries, though. So 5 yards, uh, an average for rushing, but they're not really getting him involved either. This offense for the Jets is just so anemic, uh, contrary to what you expect, given all the talent that they had. I think they only put up true 14 points against the Seahawks this last week. As 7 of those points was from a kickoff return. Like they're just not getting it done. And you're not seeing a ton of shutdown value from their defense either, like we've been accustomed to seeing with their secondary, especially. It's hard for me to say the Jets are going to win this game, so I'm going to be on the Dolphins. My question is, the Dolphins haven't looked all that great either, and I think part of it is because they're just not used to playing in the cold weather in Lambeau, which was talked about. Um, but it's hard for me to see the Dolphins blowing out anyone right now with the way they played. But I think I'm going to go with -6.5 there. Is like you mentioned, they're still playing for something. I have a feeling Aaron Rodgers has given up on this team and this season, and I bet you he's not the only one in that locker room. And so I'm going to stick with the Dolphins here to cover and to win the game, obviously.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on the Dolphins here. Like you said, the Jets don't have much going for them offensively. The Dolphins could at least put some points on the board. The cold did affect them last week, but back at home should see them improve that production. Jalen Waddle getting a little bit more
Yep.
involved in the offense. So yeah, I'm with you on the Dolphins. I think the Jets too. I mean, not that he was a great coach, but the Salah firing was maybe a little bit too premature. They definitely looked better with him as the head coach, and they've really looked terrible since. So I'm
Hmm.
with you on the
Hmm.
Dolphins too. Moving along, we have the 6-6 Falcons now, another team kind of on downtrend as of late. They're heading to Minnesota, play the 10-2 Vikings. Kirk threw 4 picks in the loss to the Chargers. Really, if he played just a half decent game, it seems like they would have won that one. And the Vikings squeaked one out at home against the Cardinals. In their typical fashion, they lead the NFL in one-score wins over the last 3 seasons, kind of playing into that fraud alert with them sitting at 10 and
Yep.
2. But the Falcons, I mean, this is a team hungry for a win, still luckily sitting at top of that division, just a weak NFC South. Where are your thoughts at going into this game?
Yeah, I want to. It's hard to factor in how much of a Kirk Cousins revenge game is at play here. Obviously, played for the Vikings and for a handful of some good seasons now, and I have to think with the way the defense played, I like the way they looked against the Chargers, only allowing I think was it like 17 points to the Chargers in their offense that has been fairly dynamic this year, and so I think that bodes well for them. What they really need, as we all know, is Kirk Cousins to not turn the ball over as many times as he did. You mentioned the Vikings constantly just scathing by in these one-score games. I think this game against the Cardinals is one that they were due for a loss, but they continue to persevere. But I'm not saying I'm not calling them necessarily frauds, but they're definitely overdue for a loss. And just throwing out the record books and the eyeball test of what I've seen, it does seem like this Falcons who are becoming increasingly desperate to get some wins as the Bucs get another win in this NFC South playoff race. It's kind of now or never for the Falcons. You get the Kirk Cousins revenge game here, which who knows how meaningful that is, but this Vikings secondary is the weaker point of their defense. I think they've been falling off further and further as the weeks go on. 19th overall coverage grade here. I think you get Kirk Cousins to, it's a big if, but if he can cut down the turnovers, I think the Falcons compete in this game, and I think they can even win it just because I don't think you're seeing Minnesota play their best football right now, and I think they are overdue for a loss. So I'm going to be on the Falcons +4.5, and I'm not going to be so bold to take them to win, but this is one, like I said for the Cardinals, I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you for a lot of similar reasons here. The Falcons have lost 3 straight. I still think this is a playoff team and the best suited team in the NFC South right now to win that division, represent the NFC South. So I think they should win this game, but like you said, it's really going to fall on Kirk Cousins to not turn the ball over. Lost that game against the Chargers, pretty much his fault because the Vikings have the number one run defense on PFF. So while Bijan's great and Algier, uh, Probably not going to have as many opportunities in the run game as normal. Darnold hasn't turned the ball over in the last 3 games, so he's doing exactly what he needs to do for Minnesota to pick up wins. But yeah, if we could get a good game out of Kirk going back to Minnesota, I like the Falcons to get back on track.
Hmm.
Next up, not as exciting of a matchup. We got the Saints just coming off the loss to the Rams in a pretty close game. They're going up against the 2-10 Giants, who lost to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving by a touchdown. Giants hadn't yet committed to a quarterback for this week's matchup. They rolled with Drew Lock against the Cowboys. And personally, I didn't think he looked too bad other than the interception. But it's going to be him or DeVito for this game. And then the Saints, we've talked about them the last few weeks, kind of a one-man show. And to get even more thin, they just lost Taysom Hill in this last matchup. So not a lot of options, but MVS, they connected to him on a deep ball
We
again.
talked about it.
So yeah, I mean, two teams, another tougher matchup. I mean, the Saints looked like they could maybe get back in the divisional race, but looking really grim now with the loss of the Rams. Where are your thoughts with the Giants? It's 4.5 point dogs at home.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling they're going to stick with Drew Lock at quarterback. Like you, I didn't think he looked completely terrible. Obviously, gave the Giants a chance and competed for much of that game, or at least for some of that game. Kind of got out of hand in the third quarter, but I think it's going to be him. He's got a little more experience in the NFL than DeVito, and I think he just looks a little more polished. He still has an ability and a penchant for turnovers. You saw a lot of questionable plays from him, including the interception, but a lot of turnover-worthy plays as well. So I'm a little bit concerned for him at quarterback, but at this point, it's the best option for the Giants at this time. For the Saints, they are what we said they were. Like they really struggle on offense, especially outside of Kamara and some MVS deep bombs. That was how they got their touchdown the game against the Rams, but that was the only touchdown they got. So again, I think it's really easy to scheme and plan defensively against the Saints offense. If we take that the top off of the MVS deep bomb and start to guard Kamara out of the backfield, then this Saints offense is almost non-existent. Now, throwing the fact that they don't have Taysom Hill as the gadget guy anymore, then they're really struggling here. So as I go down the line and think about the Saints offense, I convince myself more and more that the Giants, who have a real weapon in Malik Neighbors, can compete in this game. And I do think I'm going to take the Giants to win this game. And I do think they cover, obviously. I'm with the cover, but I think you're getting a sneaky Giants win in a really ugly, low-scoring game here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm actually with you as well on this one. Like I said, I thought Drew Lock looked pretty decent in the loss to the Cowboys. Saints continue to look like a weaker football team as the season moves along.
Hmm.
We'll see, but plus 4.5 at home. I do like the spread a lot.
Yeah.
Moving along, we have the Panthers who just lost in overtime to the Bucks, but looked really solid. And Bryce Young, brand new quarterback since getting benched, looking like he's going to save his job in Carolina if he just keep it up for the rest of this season. And the Eagles, like you called last week, Woj, if you stuck with your gut, they took care of business in Baltimore. Defense looked phenomenal, holding the Ravens to 12 till the very end. They scored a touchdown with likely put
Yep.
it up 19, but yeah, Eagles looked dominant. Number one defense on rated in PFF definitely came to play. Uh, it's I like how the Panthers have been playing, but 6.5 for me, especially the spread we just saw against Tampa, it's hard for me to take the Panthers against such a complete Eagles team. Although the passing game did look great. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm intrigued a little bit on this total being so low. Obviously, it's a testament to the Eagles defense being as good as it is. But I'm with you. Two games,
Double
the
check.
past two games, the Panthers have looked really solid, and but I'm not convinced that that is like their true identity, especially because they haven't gone up against a defense as fierce and as scary as this Eagles defense. I'm looking at the line, it's 45.5, but still
Okay.
over under 45.5. But still, they haven't, regardless, the Eagles haven't faced the Panthers haven't faced a defense like this Eagles defense. You saw what they did against the Ravens. I don't think it's too hard to do that again and replicate that against the Panthers. You're getting a little bit more of Adam Thielen action for this offense, and you're seeing a lot of really good play from Bryce Young, like we talked about last week, and we continue to commend him. But this is a much different ball game here, and I especially like a defense or a team like the Eagles, where you can just rely on a very replicable run game and Saquon Barkley behind that offensive line, and use your passing game and play action sparingly and when needed. I think the Eagles have a really great recipe for success in beating up on a lot of teams, like, and that is the run game and great defense. I think you're going to see that again this week, and the Eagles cover here 6.5.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have too much to add. They're just too complete of a football team right now. Bryce Young, while he's looked great, yeah, I don't think the Panthers defense is going to be able to do enough to keep them in the game. Let's keep it moving. Another divisional matchup, this time headed to the AFC North. You got the Browns, who play here on Monday night, versus the Broncos. They're going to Pittsburgh to play the 9-3 Steelers. Russ just threw for over 400 yards, and kind of putting that nail in the coffin on the Bengals season. Steelers defense didn't look great, but nobody really has against Burrow. They at least picked up the 4 sacks. That was enough to get the win. Um, Tough matchup heading into this one. Like we just saw the Browns beat the Steelers in that kind of snow globe game a couple weeks ago. I think it's going to be another close one here. But the Browns coverage has been at the bottom of the league, and Russ just threw for an amazing game. He's looked like another new player on the Steelers. So it's kind of tough for me heading into this one. Better weather kind of leans towards the passing game, but what do you think? More of that snow globe game that we saw a couple weeks ago, some Jameis magic mixed in, or do the Steelers roll it home?
Yeah, I'm really undecided about this one, and it's really easy to, keep the recency bias going and think the Steelers are going to roll against this game against the Browns, and that's kind of currently where my head's at because they just look so tremendous offensively against the Bengals. It's a little bit. It seems like everyone in the NFL has been doing that against the Bengals defense, especially when they're playing interdivisional games against the Bengals. It seems like they still put up 40 points and lose every time they play a team within the new division. But can't take away how good Russ has looked since he's took over the reins of this Steelers offense. But they still don't really have that much of an established run game. And you see Najee Harris and Jalen Warren playing solid, but not too impressive. But even on the flip side of the coin, this run game for the Browns has been really non-existent. Haven't been able to get Nick Chubb or Jerome Ford going. Again, I don't trust Jameis Winston to play clean football game and play turnover-free, mistake-free football. And this Steelers defense has a real knack to force turnovers. Whether you saw a couple strip sacks from the defensive line against the Bengals there, and you still see a secondary able to force turnovers when Jameis is more than willing to throw the ball to the opposing team. I do think I'm going to stick with my initial gut here of the Steelers minus 5.5. It just seems so foolish given that the Browns seem to play and Jameis Winston seemed to get fired up for these divisional games more so than any team that we've seen this year. But I'm going to stick with it until otherwise notice, unless you can convince me otherwise.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of where I'm leaning to. It's tough for me. I think, like you said, you don't want to lean too much in the recency bias with the Browns picking up that win just a couple weeks ago. But they do have a top 10 defense still. Just the coverage has kind of been lacking. They're really good against the run. So you are relying on Russell Wilson to kind of replicate what he had today, or at least even somewhat to that level, throwing over 400 yards. But yeah, no, I think I'm with the Steelers though, minus 5.5. Uh, like even just thinking about that Ravens game today, just seeing Justin Tucker miss those 2 field goals, like that was kind of the difference in the game. And
Yep.
Boswell has been so reliable for the Steelers. I think I mean, people do talk about it, but maybe not enough. I think how reliable Boswell is and just the defense. Yeah, I mean, they do play pretty complimentary football as well there in Pittsburgh. So yeah, I like the Steelers minus 5.5, and you never know, it could come down to those field goals, and I'll side with Boswell.
Yeah, very well said. He's been unstoppable this year. I keep seeing him line up for 50 plus yarders, assuming now's the time he's finally going to miss one. He just without fail puts him through the uprights. Just haven't been, he's playing like he's Justin Tucker right now.
Yeah, yeah, like old
Old
Justin.
Justin Tucker, of course.
All right, let's keep it moving. Another one of those 2-10 teams in the NFL. There's a few of them sitting in the bottom. We got the Raiders, who really should have pulled out that win against the Chiefs on Friday. It wasn't for that
Hmm.
live snap. And I'm a little bit biased, but I do like the Raiders with Aiden O'Connell a little bit more than what we saw with Minshew. They're heading to Tampa. Tampa just picked up the win, much needed win against the Panthers, and they're right back in that divisional race with the Falcons. So it's really tough for me to side with the Raiders +7 here. Bucks have a lot on the line, and like this is a game that you have to win for them. Like a team you should beat. Uh, it's just I don't know by how much they're going to win. The Raiders do on the same side. They have Brock Bowers going for them, looking like making a strong case for offensive rookie of the year outside of the quarterbacks.
Yep.
Really, other than that, it's hard for me to side with the Raiders. But I do like what Aiden O'Connell brings to the table, and a game we saw where they just almost beat the Chiefs. What do you think with the Bucks? Is a touchdown favorite at home?
Yeah, it seems a little bit rich for my liking. They haven't looked tremendous, like obviously almost dropping this game against the Panthers here. But the one huge matchup differentiator here is that the Bucks and Mike Evans in their passing game is going to be able to exploit this lackluster Raiders secondary all day long, and that's what I expect to happen. You've seen that when given the opportunity, Baker Mayfield and this Bucks offense has been able to light up the scoreboard and rack up a bunch of yards, especially in the passing game. Although um, the one thing that the Raiders do have going for them is a pretty solid run defense, and I don't know how much that matters in this game because it's not like the Buccaneers are really relying on their running back by committee to do all that much offensively and moving the ball here. It's hard to get a great gauge on the Raiders too because they you haven't seen a lot of Aiden O'Connell at quarterback and haven't seen a lot of Brock Bowers playing the way he's doing right now, getting what seems to be fully established in the NFL after a little bit of a ramp up period during their first part of his rookie season. Those guys, the connection they have, it seems like one, the Raiders just play better football when Aiden O'Connell is playing quarterback versus the other group of quarterbacks they've had rotating in and out. And then Brock Bowers seems truly unstoppable at tight end, even as a rookie. I'm going to be really intrigued to see what his career looks like when it's all said and done, if he can have a long tenured career. But that really makes me nervous in this game. And we've seen the Bucks secondary be more than willing to let up plenty of passing yards and points. You don't have to look much further than Bryce Young doing it, but in my mind, it really goes back to those games against the Falcons that really stand out to me. I think that the Raiders will cover here, the Bucks aren't playing great football. They have a game to work with. It's not like it's a true must win. I think they have a game cushion on this NFC South lead. Not that I think they're playing a little bit off the gas pedal, but the sense of urgency might not be as much there as it otherwise would be.
Yeah, no, I the spread's hard for me. I I would probably be on the Raiders +7, but Bucks to win the game just
Of
because they
course.
need it for that playoff run so badly. But I do really like the over. So Raiders
Yeah.
bottom or worst coverage grade in the NFL going up against Tampa, who no just wants to pass the ball. Bucky Irving also emerging a bit over the last 3 games
Hmm.
out of the Tampa
Hmm.
backfield. And like you said, I think Aiden O'Connell could at least move the ball a little bit better for that Raiders offense. Um, Tough matchup last week against the Chiefs. So yeah,
That's
I
a
like the
great
over
call
here.
out. Yeah,
All
I
right,
love that.
let's keep it going. Another 2-10 team. This time with Jacksonville. Just coming off the loss in a pretty close game to the what was that? The Texans. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
and then the Titans. They're sitting at 3-9. Just as we hyped up their defense going into this matchup, they got blown out by the Commanders. Levis didn't turn the ball over in that game and actually played pretty decent, but they never really had much of a chance as they're playing from behind the entire game.
Hmm.
Uh, I'll go first on this one because, yeah, just maybe a game we won't go too much into, but I still like the Titans -4.5 at home. I'm expecting Mac Jones to get the start. And while he
Yep.
did throw for 2 touchdowns and look decent against the Texans, I think the Titans with Will Levis just have a little bit more consistency there, and I still trust that defense a little bit more. Not gonna just totally give up on them after the Commanders game.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn here at the Titans 4.5. that game got out of hand with the Commanders largely because of like special team turnovers that they had. They didn't do themselves any favors, and by the time they opened up their eyes for this game, it was already over. I like the way the Jags offenses looked, even with Mac Jones. I think their wide receivers have been stepping up, but we know that this secondary and defense overall for the Titans has been pretty stingy. Ultimately, I don't think the Titans are good enough to warrant a 4.5 point spread. And for that reason, I think I'm going to stick with the Jaguars, especially with these interdivisional games, intra-divisional games. I'm sorry. It seems like things are a little bit closer than they always should be. Again, look no further than just that Jags and Texans game in week 13. I would expect the Jags to have the same level of intensity and competition against another divisional opponent here who is objectively worse in caliber and stature than the Texans. So I do think the Titans win this game if I had to pick one, but I don't like it to be by more than a field goal here. So I'm on
Yeah,
the
yeah. I mean,
Jags to cover.
lower total divisional game, two teams fairly rated. So yeah, you typically probably side with the spread. I don't trust Mac Jones enough
No, my
to do it,
yeah, we'll
but
see.
we'll see. Next up, more intriguing matchup
This is a good
here.
one. Yeah.
This time in the NFC West, we got the 7-5 Seahawks kind of emerging at the top of that division for the moment. They're going to Arizona to play the 6-6 Cardinals. And this division has really been one of the fun or most fun all season, just kind of watching everything move around. Even have the Rams now sitting at 6-6, and we'll see what the Niners do on Sunday night. So every game is going to be important moving forward for all these teams. Um, and the Cardinals, kind of looking at this week, they would have beat the Vikings if you could take away just one of Kyler's two picks. Other than those interceptions, he really looked solid. I thought he was moving the ball well, getting Marvin Harrison involved. And then Seattle on the flip side, they picked up the win against the Jets, but really buoyed by the 92-yard pick six from Leonard
Yep.
Williams. Take that away, they would have ended up losing. But the number 10 and number 11 overall teams in PFF, at the moment, there are playoff teams, but very even matchup, good passing offenses, but not the best defenses in the league. Where's your head at with the Cardinals at -2.5 at home?
Yeah, this is a pivotal game for the Cardinals playoff push here, and almost essential for them to make the playoffs with the way some of these wild card teams in the NFC are shaking out. Obviously, Minnesota and Green Bay all but locking up two of those spots, and the Commanders really vying for that third spot there. What's interesting is you mentioned the defenses aren't too solid amongst these two teams, which they're not. But when these two teams played, it was 2 weeks ago, or maybe just a week ago at this point. Um, the Seahawks had won 16-6. So not a lot of points being put up in that game. I'm wondering what has to change for these offenses to light up the scoreboard and reach this 45.5 point total that is predicted here. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I can bet that the Cardinals put up more than 6 points that game. I think they're going to figure out what they need to do differently and scheme around that. I'm sure you can say the same thing about the Seahawks, and both teams will score more than what they did in their previous matchup. But I just think because the Cardinals are in such a position where this game is everything for their season, I think that being at home against a division opponent, seeing them the second time around after dropping the first one, and a low scoring bout on the road. I think at home they get the win here, and I'm going to take them 2.5 because I think they're probably going to be a close game decided by 3 points to the victor.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on the Cardinals in this one. I like them to get a little bit of a revenge after that 10-point loss in Seattle. The Cardinals defense, while it hasn't been great, 24th overall in PFF, they are improving up until this loss to the Vikings, I believe, in their last three games, only giving up 14 points a game or so. Saw a quick graphic during today's game, but yeah, I'll go with the Cardinals. I thought they looked good, and they really should have beat the Vikings today. They just let it get away. But keeping it moving along, we have the Bills playing here on Sunday Night Football versus the Niners. They're looking really solid there in the AFC, and then the Rams um, getting back to 6-6 after the win against the Saints. They're right in that NFC West divisional race. They beat the Saints by 7 in that one. And I mean, the Rams, they could play with anyone when healthy, but as we've talked about, their defense is kind of their Achilles heel. We know how well Buffalo could score. third overall in points per game currently for this weekend. But at the same time, Buffalo's 15th overall in PFF. A little bit of a head scratcher to me. Do you think
Yeah,
Buffalo rolls here on the road and keeps things moving, or do you think the Rams could get into the playoffs in the NFC?
this is a tough one.
Sorry.
That's an intriguing game. It's hard to say on the road 4.5 for the Bills here, but I truly think that uh, this offense will be just too much overall for the Rams to handle. So I think the Bills win this game, but I really am intrigued by this plus 4.5 here because I think what I really like the most is the over here. I think you're going to see a ton of offense in the passing game from both teams. I think you're going to see a really good game from Cooper Kupp and or Puka Nacua here. As I think what's really weighing down that Buffalo PFF is their low defensive grade, or at least not as up to the caliber that you would expect from a team that is playing as well as the Bills are. So I think you're going to see again a lot of points here. I think that the Bills win the game and they keep rolling, but I wouldn't be surprised if they drop this one because they have a very comfortable lead here in the AFC East. And the we talked about it and you talked about it. The Rams are continually vying for this playoff spot and keep trying to win games and compete for this very attainable NFC West division crown. And even right now, with the way records are shaking up, they got a chance to even sneak in right behind the Commanders and take that third wild card spot too. So, given how tight the division is and how much of a comfortable lead the Bills have, I think you're going to see the Rams compete here. I can't put my stamp on them winning this game, but I would not be surprised at all to see this one be a tight shootout here at a very close game.
Yeah, no, I'm this is another one where I'm right there with you. I like the 4.5 for the Rams a lot, mostly because like you said, they just need a little bit more getting the playoff run where the Bills, they're pretty comfortable. They're in the AFC East, looking like they'll get the one or the two seed um, in that conference. But yeah, I think I'm with the Rams. But yeah, their defense still scares me. We've seen them get lit up this season, and yeah, I mean, tough matchup. But all right, a couple more games to go. Uh, this time moving to the Bears. It's now sitting at 4-8. Just fired Eberflus. Thomas Brown will be making his head coaching debut. They're going to San Francisco, who another team that really needs a win tonight in Buffalo. But
Mhm.
the Bears, they fell apart for a sixth straight loss. Only the Raiders and Giants with worse losing streaks currently. And four of those six Bears losses were by 3 points or less. So really playing in that Eberflus firing, just mismanagement late in the game. Caleb, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks through his last two, throwing the ball a little bit better. Uh, it's hard for me to take a pick on this one, especially because I can see the Niners still making a run, just even how bad they've been. But yeah, just from what I've seen the last few weeks, I do think the Bears will come through and finally pull one out. Even if they don't, I like the 5.5 here a lot on the road.
Yeah, it's tough because both these teams that have really underperformed this year, especially the Niners, who I think a lot of people thought they could make a return to the Super Bowl, at the very least, make a return to the playoffs, but they have not been playing at that caliber. I think uh, I'm on the opposite side of the game as you, this one. I think you're going to see the Niners come out. I've been saying this every week, and I had to be right one of these weeks. I think they're going to come out and play some real solid, true to San Francisco 49ers football here, ground and pound, great defense, and stymie this Bears offense. And I think what I really am anticipating this game is for the second best graded coverage unit in the 49ers to shut down Caleb Williams, who will have a tough time on the road against such defense. And the Bears don't really like to rely, they're not known for relying on their run game. They don't have a solid offensive line to really pave the way, although DeAndre Swift has been good in the last few weeks. I don't think it's going to be enough against this, again, really stout Niners secondary. I think that's the big difference for me in this game. I think you get back to the run for the 49ers as you're playing a Bears defense that is very weak against the run. Um, and I think all signs point to a Niners bounce back game. Um, in winning against the Bears at home here, especially after I think the last time these two teams played, it was that Trey Lance monsoon game in Chicago. I
Yeah,
think the different circumstances this time, I think the Niners just out bully the Bears this game.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. They're still eighth overall in PFF, only team in the top 13 with a losing record. So, like you said, should be a matter of time. But I've been getting burned on them a few too many.
Yes. Yep.
Moving on to the Sunday night football matchup, and a really good one this week. Got the 8-4 Chargers going to Arrowhead to play the 11-1 Chiefs. Chiefs just beat the Falcons in a close game, and then the Chargers beat the Falcons in a close game, and then the Chiefs beat the Raiders also in a close one. But we have a divisional matchup. Chiefs, I saw somebody mention it, kind of reminding them of the Eagles a couple seasons ago, or last season even. Blanking right now,
Two,
but
two seasons.
yeah, they started off hot and kind of falling down the stretch. Um,
Maybe
Curious
it was last year.
yeah, that was last year, but started off hot and kind of falling down the stretch. We'll see. I mean, they still only have one loss on the year. J.K. Dobbins on the IR, not as much production from Gus Edwards. So that one makes it tough for me. I would really want to side with the Chargers, but the offense didn't look great in the last one. So where's your mind at with the Chiefs just over the hook field goal here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a low scoring game at that. I think to me, you're going to see much lower scoring than 44.5 points here. It's probably my least, or probably my most favorite pick that I've talked about the entire video, actually. But I think under normal circumstances, I want to say the Chargers here to cover. But like you mentioned, their offense just is not there. They only put up 10 points offensively, 17 total against this Falcon secondary, who's solid, but not anything to write home about. And so it seems like the loss of J.K. Dobbins is having an immediate impact and having a much less effective ground game, putting yourself a little bit more behind the sticks and having to rely on Justin Herbert in the pass game much more. And even when you're getting former first round pick Quentin Johnson. Johnson has not been looking solid, not looking like the player he even did last year in his rookie season. A lot of drops, not nearly as efficient. It's outweighed by Ladd McConkey, who's been playing great football wide receiver, but really the only sign of life on this offense. And that's not enough to beat a Chiefs team that can beat you so many different ways. And that's the reason they win so many tight games, is because they can beat you in so many different ways. So I'm on the Chiefs here to win this game. And it's going to be a 3 or 4 point win, I'd have to admit. It's good because I think it's going to be a low scoring game, but I'm going to take the side on the Chiefs here just because this Chargers offense just doesn't have the juice, it seems like.
Yeah, I'm probably with you on the Chiefs here. The hook on the field goal makes it a little bit iffy for me, but I love the under. As you mentioned, kind of the worries about the Chargers offense. They're second overall in coverage grade on PFF. This Kansas City team averages the sixth most pass attempts per game in the NFL. They should be able to slow down the Mahomes in this offense. I like the under as my favorite play. But going into Monday Night Football, kind of have to speed around this one, but we have the 4-8 Bengals against the 5-7 Cowboys. Cooper Rush looking solid in that win. They get a little bit of extra time playing on Thanksgiving going in this one. And the Bengals offense keeps showing up. Defense keep failing really. Where's your head at? Do you think the Bengals keep pushing along, or was that the nail in the coffin for them?
I mean, they're not going to roll over and die, but I do think it was the nail in the coffin for them. Let's see if they believe that. I think the Bengals win this game. They're going to continue to put up 40 points against a Dallas defense that hasn't been playing great this year, even when Micah Parsons has been there. Although against this Bengals offensive line, I'd be a little nervous to see what he can do. But I'm going to be with the Bengals here. I just don't think the Cowboys are going to be able to put up enough points with Cooper Rush, a quarterback who has been playing better. But I'm going to stick with this Bengals offense and bet that the Cowboys offense can't keep pace and take the Bengals 6.5 here.
All right, I like it. I'm personally on the 6.5 on the Cowboys. I think they'll do enough. Sixth ranked pass rush.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
it
yeah.
is,
I mean, they
man.
got to slow down Burrow. Cooper Rush isn't gonna beat him in a shootout, but we'll see.
Well, Micah Parsons certainly can slow him down. If anyone could do it, it's him. We'll see.
All right, that's it, Woj.
Yeah, until next week, week 15. Best of luck in week 14, everybody.